What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Welcome out, all of you great decoders around the world, both male and female. My name is Logan, and this, of course, is Decode Your Reality, and today we're going to be breaking down and decoding what it means to be illuminated. This will be Illumination Decoded, and typically being illuminated usually equates to the illumination, which has its own set of merits, but I feel that illumination has a much more prosperous expression in this game called life, and I'm going to support that through this presentation. This one I've been working on for a while. I have a lot of slides. It's going to be a long one. Get strapped in, get settled in, put on a pair of headphones, block out the outside world. I am about to drop some major heavy gnosis on all of you great decoders right now. So let's get started. So how do we get illuminated? What does illumination mean? Well, I wanted to start with this graphic right here and the word enter. And notice you have this spiral indicating the galaxy, and then the DNA, the golden spiral coming down into duality, which is the checkerboard floor, and it's enter. Enter being the number 21, and this obviously has a big tie into so many other things. Saturn equals 21, Zeus equals 21, the word love equals 21, and it's being birthed into this reality. So then we have the feminine principle. And it's tied to this card right here in the tarot called the World card. And there's the Vesica Pisces and the 4 fixed signs of astrology, where I'm going to show you how that's tied into being illuminated and being birthed into this world. And there's the center point. There's the bullseye matching the card. And we go down into this world where we become physical matter. And when we enter this world, called the game of life, we then get ruled over by the Wizard of Oz. When you take this number 21 as you enter into this reality called life, and you start to give off your love and fear emotions, which make up the string of pi, and I'm going to be showing how pi works from a graphical standpoint. But this number 21 in the string of pi occupies digits 93 and 94, And when you add up 93 and 94, you're going to get the number 187. And that's one of the isotopes or atomic weights of osmium, the 76th element. And there's so many more connections to that than just what I'm showing you here. But this is a very good start for this Illumination Decoded presentation. A lot have been waiting for this one, so let's have at it. That was the intro. Here are the topics for this presentation in the zero position, the intro, which is what I just did. Number one, what's kind of started this, the beginning of it all, it's the great show called Stranger Things. Yeah, that's part of being illuminated. Stranger Things in the number one position. Number two, Iris. Number three, optics. Number four, the fixed X. Number 5, 1313. That's going to be a big one. Number 6, of course, the topic of this decode, illumination. And always love to hear what you see during these presentations. What did you see? So keep your comments coming in the description below. So let's get into the first topic, Stranger Things. If you haven't seen the show, you should probably check it out. It's got a huge fan base, but in Stranger Things, they talk about what's called the upside down world. The upside down world. And this is how I feel is the as above, so below. We get inverted, and that's just how light works. Look at the first camera, the camera obscura, and how it worked. It was mirroring or flipping the light structure that comes through the hole, and you go upside down, and you go down in a hole, and you get this 49, which is going to end up giving all its energy to the number 13, and then the 4, which is the box. But let's keep going, because you see, as we go down into this hole to become a player in this game, we then tie the bridge. Like, these elements are bridges. Those of you that are new, welcome out. These elements are bridges. They are very important in describing how our reality works. And the 49 from down in a hole is tied to indium. We go inward. There's the clue. And indium, through numerology, is the number 21. And we go right back to the word enter. We enter this world through the hole, ruled over by the stars, and down into this game called life, and ruled over by the Wizard of Oz. See how all this works? And just keeping it in the Chaldean. Don't need to deviate away. Chaldean tells you the narration of the machinations of how this world works. So we end up tying it into you and me and the I. The I am. Essentially, you are the I am. You are the universe. And there's that notorious, infamous number 33. Notice that iris and pupil, because that's what our eyes are. The pupil is the black sun. The little devil, be the best little devil you can be. This takes in the light, and then here are your 12 apostles, and I'm going to get into that. The iris, which is the 77th element, tied to the rainbow and the goddess called Iris. And it's the universe. The word imagination equals 33. And that's why the G in the compass of the Masons is the capital G in the Francis Bacon. It's the 33rd letter. There's a big tie into that. But it's the iris and the pupil that make up our reality. Without that, there is no universe. So loosely, we go and bring this 33 in. We bridge it through alchemy, and we get this arsenic, which, you know, you're going to have Jesus and Lucifer tied to that because they both equal the 74 in the English. But this 33 and 74 is also tied to this element called wolfram. It's called tungsten, but the W stands for wolfram. It's feed the wolf. So the 74 is tied to the arsenic, which is tied to the 33, and this is why we are the wolf. We are the wolf, and of course, wolf is 24, and it's tied to the letter X, which is our X chromosomes. So we are essentially feeding the wolf by way of what we observe through our iris and pupil. And this is being illuminated. Illumination, knowing this information of how the machinations of how this reality works. So when we get a further rendition of this W, which is a big letter, it's the 23rd letter, tied to the words blood, crown, and history. And it's also the 49 in the Francis Bacon, the capital. That's the value in Francis Bacon when you know how to use it. But there it is, the 49, and you go right back to the enter, and then we go to the indium and down in a hole into the world, into the game called life. You see how all this works? It's all connected. It's all part of the source code script. And we are essentially feeding it by way of our observations. And this W is the crown for a reason. I'm going to be showing that a little bit later on. So I decided to do the alchemology of the iris and pupil, seeing how massively tied they are to this reality, because without us observing it, there is no reality. Those of you that are new, alchemology is combining alchemy and numerology. So we take the outcomes of the words into the single digits, and then we bring them and match them up with the element on the periodic table. So like iris is 1, 2, 1, 3. That's going to be hydrogen, helium, hydrogen, lithium, 1, 2, 1, 3. And then we want to add all these up. And here's the comedy right off the bat, because the alchemology of iris and pupil is the number 64.897. We go right back to the periodic table, and we have the element called gadolinium. It's the GD element. If you put this O in there, it spells out the word God. And this element is tied to the television screen. So essentially, what is this telling us? We create the movie. We're inside of a movie. And this is part of being illuminated, knowing that you're in a Truman Show of your own. You're in a movie. Life is all theater. And essentially, life is not real. That's why all the suffering is allowed and all the nightmares and everything else in the cyclical patterns of the golden age to the dark age. But this is the comedy. You see, did the Royal Society of Chemistry, you go to their website, and did the Royal Society of Chemistry know that iris and pupil, did they have this alchemology? Was somebody using it? I discovered it. I don't even know if anybody's using it. But nonetheless, were they using it because they knew iris and pupil added up to the 64? And did they put a television screen there to match that up because they knew this information? Or was it just the source code playing out through man? And that's exactly what the outcomes were supposed to be, because this is the explanation of the image. It says the image reflects the past use of the element in television screens. How about that? So gadolinium, the GD element, you might as well say it's the God element, is used in television screens. Like Truman Burbank, you're live in front of the whole world. You're on television. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what's going on here, and telling us all loud and clear that we're inside of a movie. Remember, 64 squares on a chessboard. It doesn't mean that it's Masonic and it's evil and they're trying to mock you. It's far beyond that. And 64 is tied to the codons in our DNA. So there's very deep meanings beyond the surface indoctrination that many people want to blame it on or pass judgment upon. So keep going on this gadolinium. Where's the illumination with this? Well, we know we're inside of a movie, and it's all theater, and it's part of the simulation. Gadolinium, when you do the numerology of that, it's the 35. 35 is tied to the word simulation, because we're in a simulation. And it even says it right here when you point out this statement. You are in a simulation. 64. You see, it's directly connected, telling you that you're inside a television screen. Something is observing us from the as above. We are a fractal down in its so below. Just like when you watch television, it's your so below. It's a fractal below you. And you can't tell the difference because a lot of you get mad and angry and you start crying in these characters on television and it's not even real. You can't tell the difference because you get so engrossed in the television screen. When you take this simulation number 35 tied to gadolinium and being on a television screen, we bring it into pure mathematics to fact check it against the source code. And here we have the string of the golden ratio. And the string of the golden ratio is tied to the golden spiral and the Fibonacci sequence. And you can figure out a lot about how our reality works by placing these numbers in there. I'm using, for those of you that are new, this is the website that I'm using right here. It's called Subidium.com right here. And you can type in any number and it's going to tell you the outcome up to 2 million digits. There it is. 35 is 56 and 57. What do you get when you add up 56 and 57 found from this number 35? From the word simulation? You get the number 113, and 113, thank you, numberempire.com. It's the freaking 30th prime number. And we go right back to numerology, and we see that the demiurge, that what the Gnostics talk about, what runs this reality, is that number 30. And, you know, those of you that know the medicine cards, it's the rabbit card. And so the simulation is whatever's running this reality, it likes to come down here and play out its own game. And there you're going to get the fallen angel story, etc., etc. But it's man chasing time. Once you come into this reality, you now have a short period of time because death is going to get you sooner or later in the simulation. That's part of the package. That's part of the contract. So are we just in a virtual reality? If you go do the meaning of virtual reality, and that's why in the beginning of this presentation, I decided to use some videos from people wearing the virtual reality goggles, telling you that's a fractal down. But we're in a fractal down. And whatever's observing us, perhaps is wearing its own glasses. It perhaps watching us through a television screen. So this virtual is a 23. We're in a virtual reality. Reality is a 17. That's direct match to the word matrix. It's the mother playing tricks on you. Because life is an illusion, it's Maya, and life is the number 17. The word gold is 17. The word fish, we're all goldfish down here. Those are all 17. And it's led to gold here through the energy exchange of love to fear, fear to love, etc., etc. When you do the alchemology of this word virtual, it gives you this number right here, 46.047. And when you say 46047, we then get another clue, which if you haven't checked out my Manly P. Hall Decoded, I showed you where the secret teachings of all ages comes from. Well, it comes from the as above. There it is, the 100. If you haven't seen this show, it's about these kids who get pushed down to Earth from the ark in space to make sure Earth is inhabitable again. All tied to the fallen angel story, perhaps where we got our start from. But the virtual, think about what I'm showing you here, the virtual reality is whatever's observing us just playing us remotely. Are there many players in the as above? Like if you just say, oh, there's angels up there and they got the remote control and they're playing us. And that's where their virtual reality. And it's real. And it's lucid dreaming and the cosmos having a dream. There's so many ways we can break this down through these concepts. And then we bring in this element right here called titanium, just to give you some comedy, because titanium is got the 46 and 47 for its isotopes, and it's the 22nd element tied to the letter V for virtual, and titanium is Saturn's moon Titan. And this is where you're going to get the Greek mythology of the Titans being thrown down to earth into Tartarus by the Olympians. So where those stories are going to come into play, just from the word virtual and its alchemology. How about that? So let's keep going with this. So it leads to the eye in the sky. So virtual, again, think about what I'm showing you here to be illuminated. 46.047, the big kickers are the 46 and 47. Those of you who have been paying attention. In the string of pi, the anomaly that I found last year was 1937.46. Those of you that are new, you have to just watch some more of my videos, but there's a loop that is inside the string of pi, and it's 1937.46. And this 46 and 47 is tied to the 37. 37 occupies digits 46 and 47, and then we get the truth bomb, I feel, and it's the eye in the sky. So think about what I'm showing you here. The virtual reality is putting on the glasses, seeing this reality for what it is, being controlled by the eye in the sky. Are we just the eye in the sky? Are we just transponders of energy, giving feedback to whatever's running us remotely? I mean, the comedy's in the damn element. The 37th element's called rubidium, and this is the icon the Royal Society of Chemistry uses, and they say it's for photocells. Right here, the electric eye. It's all right here in the code, folks. And man's not coding this. Mankind's not coding this reality. We are simply being used to express the code. You just got to have fun with this and see it for what it is. That's how you will become illuminated. That's how you become illuminated. So when we keep going with this 46 and 47, found from the word virtual, are we just in a virtual reality that's not real? Well, we take the 46 and 47 found at this number 37, which is tied to eye in the sky, and we add them all up. We get the digits in the string of pi. So here is 46 and 47. The digits right here, 37 is found at the 46 and 47th decimal digit, right there. And here are all the digits that precede it, all the way back to the 3 point. And we add it up and we get the number 241. This is another piece of the methodology that I use to decode from, because it's all mathematics that create this source code. Well, that 241 is not just any number, ladies and gentlemen. It's the freaking 53rd prime number. And then the comedy continues, because then you bring it back into alchemy and you're going to get the iodine element. The I am that I am. The I is I. It's also spelled E-Y-E, but it's the all-seeing eye. It's the eye in the sky. So when you take this 37 and you bring it into the string of pi and you take all the digits and add them up, where that 37 is located, 47 digits, of course, that's going to be tied to tetragrammaton. You're going to get the 241, which is going to give you the 53 through numberempire.com. 53 is the element iodine, and then iodine is tied back again to the word virtual. You see how all this it's just a big boomerang. It just goes right back around again. Bam, and there's the source code staring at all of us, telling you exactly how this reality works. We're inside of a virtual reality. It's a theater, it's a movie, and we're being remotely controlled. And your eyes are the architect's eyes. And you're observing this reality, giving feedback, and making the whole constructs of this reality work, just like myself. And it's like, how many times you say, I am this, I'm tired, I gotta go here, I gotta go do this. I am this, I am that. Constantly we're doing that. We don't give any notice to it. We don't pay attention to that, because that's just part of life. But now you can see how important the word Yeshua equals 53. We are the Christ. Showed this in my last decode of the Truman Show Part 2 Decoded. That Yeshua is 53, tied to the word hell. It's all part of this construct, and we're living inside of a movie, and really what it comes down to. And this is a big one right here, folks. You see, I believe that we're inside of a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme is a 53 tied to the element iodine, which is tied to the eye in the sky, which is tied to the virtual reality, which is tied to our blood. And Ponzi scheme is exactly what this whole construct is all about. At the very tip of the pyramid is where the origin all lies. Everything inside the pyramid is owned by the tip, by the apex. And it's a Ponzi scheme. Everything under the dome in this reality, inside the cosmic egg, is all one and the same archetype. And it's all owned by the Ponzi scheme. So it doesn't matter what you feed, it doesn't matter what you believe, it owns it all. And I say it because that's what it is. It's the it, it's the IT, the it. And that's how I feel you become illuminated, realizing that you are owned and you're not owning anything. You are just simply renting space here in the game of life, and it's a Ponzi scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme. So let's keep going. Let's now get into the second topic called the iris. So let's get into the eye, to be illuminated. What does it mean to be illuminated with the letter A? Well, we get into this element right here, right in the dead center, called aluminium. I may say aluminum because it can be. I was actually raised with pronouncing it aluminum. It's pronounced both ways, but properly through the Royal Society of Chemistry, it's aluminium, but it's Al. It's the AL. And if you start to look for this word, A and L, the letters, you're going to see a hell of a lot of it in this reality. Paul Simon, one of his most famous songs off the album Graceland was You Can Call Me Al. So many syncs just with that song. But it's about the pupil. You see, pupil means student. And it's that number 26. That's the dead giveaway, because there it is in the weight or atomic mass of aluminum measured in the laboratory. There it is. And the 13 is the protons of aluminium. And 13 is tied to gold, which is going to be tied to the sun. And 13 is where you're going to get your bloodlines from. 13 is where you're going to get the Last Supper and the apostles and the Christ. They're all going to fit inside this construct. So let's just keep going with that. This one is a huge truth bomb that I'm bringing to the table right here, right now. And I really want you to get this. This is so important. You see, we are ruled by the stars, the sun, the moon, these luminary bodies. They rule over us. That's why if you read into astrology, it's going to be really accurate for you, because these are constructs that were handed down a very long time ago. And when you take the elements on the periodic table and you mesh them, you synchronize them properly with the respected zodiac sign, you will see the element that rules over you. I'm not saying it's going to be the total ruler over you, but it will be definitely tied to you. And in the very dead center is where you're going to get illumination. It's the Al. You can call me Al. It's the 13 and the 26. This is where our blood is. And it's the bullseye. It's the bullseye. And so these 12 elements that wrap around the 12 zodiac signs are all synchronized properly. And in the dead center, you're going to get element number 13, which is going to be in the bullseye position. And that is going to make up our eyes. You see, if you're a fan of astrology, just realize and know that astrology is the reading of your eye. It's your eyeball. And you have two eyes, so you're going to get the chart of when you were born, and then you're going to get the chart that constantly moves every second of every hour of every day. And if you take the two charts and put them side by side, you now have a pair of eyes. You see, the 12 apostles are in the makeup of the iris of your eye, the colored part. And then the 13, which is linked to the death card, which is where light goes into. It goes into the black sun, and this is where your devil is. And it goes inside your eye, and then all the actions happen where you create the simulation, which is tied to a lot of things, the retina and the pineal gland and all that stuff. That's all part of that construct. And there's the dead center point, the aluminum in the middle. And this is the death card in the tarot. So it's interesting because this is what it's going to look like for all of us as this wheel turns, as it spins. Like Journey sang, the wheel in the sky keeps on turning. Well, it's tied to you and your iris and your pupil. And this is what it means to be illuminated. Through illumination, through the element aluminium. And I'm going to get into that quite a bit. But let's talk about where the Christ fits into this. You see, we are the devil, but we're also Jesus. We are a byproduct of duality, black and white, good cop, bad cop, antagonist, protagonist, superhero, villain. And we're all sinners down here. That's what makes us the devil and the Christ. You're made up of fear and love. Fear would be the devil, love would be the Christ. And Jesus fits inside of your eye. How I know this to be an absolute for me is because of his crown that he wore. You see, if you go into the mirror tonight after you get done with this presentation and you take a deep look into your eyes, you're going to see what I'm about to show you right now that's going to illuminate you. Because this crown right here that the Christ wore, well, it fits right over that iris. You can't miss it once you see it. You can't miss it once you see it, folks. There it is. Truth bomb central for you. You are the Christ. The return of the Christ is you. It's waking up and realizing your true potential and realizing you're in a simulation. That's why the Christ said, let thy eye be single. There's the truth bomb right there. Astrology and the crown of thorns, they all fit inside of your eye. They all do. All of it. And you're playing out a game. You see, aluminum or aluminium has 13 protons, has an average atomic weight of 26, and there it is. We're playing out a game. It's called life. It's a game. This is a game, and we're not in control of the game. I know that a lot of you may not want to tolerate that notion. You think you're in control of your life, and I'm not here to rob or steal that away from you. These are just my opinions. You got to make the truth your own. But I feel we're in a game, and mankind's being used remotely. And it's being used by the stars and the heavenly bodies above us. And I'm going to keep supporting that as we move further into this presentation. You see, the 26 is tied to the element iron. So the game, 13 and 26, found in this element aluminium, is also found in this element iron. And you know, what's in our blood, folks? It's called iron. Iron is what, provides the oxygen and has so much to do with our blood. And iron has an average weight of 55. This is isotope 56. What is 56? Lights, camera, action. You see, we're inside of a movie. That's what this is telling all of us. You're inside of a movie. And the word light in the English is a 56. And the words lights, camera, action, which is what they say in Hollywood, telling you you're inside of a movie. 56 is going to lead to barium, the 137, and right back to that 33 and the iris and the pupil. Okay, you can just keep bolting on all these different layers to make a huge jump in the right direction of illumination. So let's keep going. Let's get into the second topic now. Let's get into the topic called optics, which has to do with light, which obviously has to do with our eyes. And when you break down this word optics, you see, optics is an aperture, is a hole. I think I have an error here. No, an aperture is a hole or an opening through which light travels, which is going to be the pupil. The pupil. Now you can get into a camera and video cameras, but that's just taking a snapshot of this reality. Notice that optics is a 26, just like the word pupil. It's a direct match, which is tied to blood through the iron and tied to aluminium and illumination. So here is the aperture. And through a camera, right? Camera has an aperture. When you take a picture, those of you that are camera fans, those of you that are big into photography, you know what an aperture is. Well, there's the 33, bam, tied to the iris and pupil. Iris and pupil is 33, if you remember in the beginning of this presentation. And this is where the light goes into, that absorbs the light. And this is the 13. So I decided to break this down even more, showing the magic square of the sun. So let me narrate this for all of you. Optics and pupil are 26. That leads to the element aluminium or aluminum, the Al. You can call me Al, which is going to fit right in the dead center of your pupil. And it's going to have your blood there because 26 is tied to iron. But when we take this 13, which is the reason why it's such a freaking huge powerhouse of a number. One of the most powerful numbers in the existence of mankind is 13. The numeric string 13 in the string of the golden ratio dealing with light coming into the eye, occupies digits 55 and 56. And when you get out your calculator and add up 55 and 56, bam, you're going to get the number 111, which is a piece of this magic square of the sun. And what does the sun provide? It provides the light for the simulation, which it just might be the architect of this entire creation. Let's keep going. And there's your 666. The as above is the sun. 666. Man is the 666 below. Now, when we bring this into Hebrew and the Yod He Vahe and the Bible, those of you that are theology fans, well, you're going to get the 26 and tied to the blood and the iron. And there's the 26 right there in aluminium, found from the optics and the people. So is it just the Yod? Is it the Yod coming down here and becoming man to play out its own game? Is that what we're seeing here? I mean, the fallen angel story fits right in there, but is the fallen angel story convoluted? Is it really just the architect remotely controlling all of us in this virtual reality called a simulation? When we take this number 13 and we place it into the string of pi now, we did the golden ratio, now we bring it into the string of pi, gives us the same outcome. 13 appears at 110, 111. There's the 111 going right back to this magic square of the sun. Remember, the magic square of the sun is the numbers 1 through 36, added up 36, 1 plus 2 plus 3. If you add up 1 through 36, it's going to give you 666. And this is the great beast above our head. Mankind is the great beast below, tied to the sun devil. So this optics and pupil is 26. I showed this with the Christ, being tied to iron, being tied to our blood. And when you enter the game, you enter an avatar and you enter into the simulation. And the 26 from the optics and pupil, where the light enters into, going down in the hole. Well, it appears at digit 6 and 7. And what is 6 plus 7? 13. And 13 is tied to aluminium, the Al. And remember, Al sits in the middle. So this is all connected to the source code, telling us the story, telling us how the machinations of this reality works. There's the 13 tied to the 26. Pure mathematics through the string of pi. Pure mathematics, showing you the source code. And then if we take the 26 and we bring it into the golden ratio, right back to the Fibonacci sequence and the golden spiral and the sunlight, it occupies digits 67 and 68. You get the most magnetic. That's what runs our reality. I'm going to show that a little bit later on in this presentation. Our reality is based on magnetism and electricity. And here's the most magnetic element on the entire periodic table. And iron is tied to magnets. So our blood is magnetic. We are electrical sources of being, but our blood seems to be magnetic, tied to this expression right here. 67 and 68, and if you add those up, you're going to get the element that says it all about what we're in, and it's barium. 67 plus 68 is 135. Again, these elements are all bridges telling us the story. You go back to that 56, and what was that number 56? It was lights, camera, action. All based on pure mathematics. The number 26 in the string of the golden ratio. It doesn't matter which way I do it, folks. Golden ratio, string of pi, it's all going to lead to the 13, the 26, which is going to lead to the 26 and the 56, which is going to lead to becoming part of this movie that we call life. The Truman Show. We're living in a real-life Truman Show. And that's what this is all about. Look, folks, that's the illumination. Knowing you're in a simulation. Knowing that you're in a movie and it's scripted and it's predestined. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. You just got to enjoy the ride and realize where you are and what you're doing and what you came here to be a part of. Because you are the universe. So let's get into a little bit of theology now. This one's really going to drop a lot of truth bombs. I'm going to get into the 4 fixed signs that I've labeled the fixed X. The X, remember, being the number 24 tied to the wolf. And so this scripture right here, the Bible is nothing other than astrology. It's one and the same. It's just told in a different format. But this scripture right here in the Old Testament now, so now you're going to get into Judaism and the Ezekiel 1 verses 10. And this is what it says for this scripture. It talks about the face of God having 4 faces. The ox, lion, eagle, man. The Ox, Lion, Eagle, Man. And here they are right here, tied to the astrology signs. If you're one of these, well, you're one of the 4 fixed signs. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm tied to the Man. Then you get the Bull, tied to Taurus. And you got Leo, tied to the Lion. And then you get Scorpio, which is, you. Those of you that are Scorpios, you're the Eagle. The Eagle has landed, Apollo night, all the moonlit, it's all tied to Scorpio, the 8th zodiac sign. Remember, 19 is the 8th prime number. And this is where the Phoenix is going to rise from right here. I'm going to be getting into that with Jason from Archaics and the Simulation Theory. I hope you check out our new, upcoming live podcast. But nonetheless, here, this is, I decided to take the brightest star, the main star in each of these 4 zodiac signs. This is going to be illumination, folks, I promise you, because this is how we got here, or at least a big part of it, tied to photons and light and physics. So these are the 4 stars, the 4 brightest stars in Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. Right here, the names of them. And it's 104. And 104 is tied to this element right here called palladium. Palladium is from Pallas, and it's Greek mythology, which is more fact than mythology. Palladium means wisdom. You see, this means wisdom, the X. The X, the 4 fixed signs, it's going to lead to illumination. And I'm going to show you that. I'm going to knock your socks off with some upcoming slides. That I can assure you. And here is the loop, folks. Here's the loop once again, if you've been paying attention. 19, 30, remember, eye in the sky, 37 tied to that loop. 19's tied to the sun. Of course it is. And it's the 1937, 47. And there's so many more advanced ways to look at this. A lot of you have been doing that. But it's tied to palladium. It's tied to palladium. And this is where it's at right here. Here's a big truth bomb. Bam! Because we're going to use Hebrew now, where the original spelling expression of the astrology in the Bible comes from. Hebrew. Not English. Not saying English doesn't have. It's going to be a 55 in English, which is going to be tied to iron anyway. But nonetheless, it's 156. And the original is the bull. It's the bull, lion, eagle, man. Here's the original spellings in the Hebrew. Ezekiel 1 verses 10. Well, there's another truth bomb for you. It's the 9/11. What happened on 9/11? How do you think that happened? Do you think man was running that? I can assure you it wasn't. But I'm not going to force anything upon you. But the 9/11 is the 156 prime number. And 156 is the 156. 56 is lights, camera, action. 156 is the ruler of the 56. It's just a hierarchy of it. That's how you observe these numbers. The leader of the 56, the controller of the 56, the starting point of the 56, 156. And this 156 is tied right back again. We started it in the beginning. As we enter into the game of life and become part of the movie through these 4 fixed signs tied to the photon of light, which makes up our reality, it's the television screen. Once again, the comedy. Here it is, the element gadolinium, the GD element. And the 64 tied to the squares on a chessboard, tied to our DNA. And X marks the spot. This is going to form the X, which is the 24th letter in the alphabet. And it's going to tie to Yaldabaoth and the number 11 and the Christ and salt and all that. So there's a lot of layers to this. But what I wanted to show all of you, this was a big time discovery of mine. I wanted to share it with all of you. And I'm encouraging you to, all of you, if you're into the elements of the periodic table, there are many clues. Some of them are relating to the melting point, the boiling point of these elements. And to me, the melting and boiling points are the transmutation points of these elements, perhaps telling us of where spirit turns into matter and it melts. So this element gadolinium melts at 1313 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit conversion, and Kelvin conversion. And you can have fun with all these numbers, but let me show you the value in this number 1313 just a little bit. I'm going to break this down with the sine and cosine waves, but is it just a double aluminum or aluminium? Aluminium, excuse me. Is it just 2 of them with what we're seeing here with the actual melting point, where I'm going to suggest that it's the GD, the God, the architect, transmuting itself from a spirit down into physical matter. That's what the melting means, and becoming man. And we're liquid beings, right? We're made up of primarily water. So I know this has major significance. And many of you that have been decoding, you know how important what I'm showing you is. So let's keep going. Here's the guy. I'm going to get back to the 1313. Here's the guy who discovered aluminium. Hans Christian Ørsted. Now here's a guy being used. Because if you think these people on the Royal Society of Chemistry are trying to mock you and screw you over, for what, I have no idea. I think you need to recheck your beliefs. This guy right here who discovered aluminium, right there, his name is a 64, tied to the television screen, which is tied to the 156, which is tied to the 911, which is tied to the 4 fixed signs in astrology / theology. And perhaps how we all got here, a big piece of it. And this guy was part of it. His job was to discover aluminium and to ensure that he's dialed into the source code with just this layer right here. I'm going to show you a few more. This guy was a big deal on the world stage of discoveries because he was the first physicist who discovered that electric currents create magnetic fields. Essentially, he is the father of electromagnetism. That's why I have them highlighted in yellow. So think about what I'm showing you. See, our reality is based on electricity and magnetism. And with these two concepts, with these two things in physics, it creates the television screen. It creates the movie that we're in. And in order to be part of this movie, you need to have blood. You need to be incarnated into a vessel, a physical vessel, to play this game called life. And this guy was being used, obviously, to discover these things. The first guy to discover electromagnetism was this guy. And he discovered aluminium, the 13th element, tied to the 13 bloodlines and all those stories. Many hotels skip the 13th floor. Well, it's not because there's a curse on it. It's because how important the 13 is. And it's tied to our blood. And it's the architect coming down here to play man or control it remotely, one of the two or both. So let's keep going. So here is the breakdown of magnetic and electric. This guy discovering it. Here is the big truth bomb, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been following my research, I have Prison Planets part 1, 2, and 3. I showed that Prison Planet is tied to the 52. Simple math, 26 plus 26. But look at what it's tied to, ladies and gentlemen. See, the prison planet that we live on, it's a fun prison to live in if you got a good if you got a good code. Some people didn't. But you see, the prison that we live in is designed around magnetism and electricity, where you're going to get the Elohim, both 26. And the 26 is right inside. Think about what I'm showing you. This guy discovered aluminium, and the 26 is a match to magnetic and electric, and he was the guy who discovered electromagnetism. Do you think this is just someone trying to screw you over and mock you? Try to pull the woolly over your eyes, to get one past you, to try to hide shit from you. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. This is the source code that was written before each and every one of us got here. This guy was just doing his job. His job was to discover electromagnetism. He was to discover aluminium, and the proof's in the pudding right there, folks. The proof's in the pudding right there. Let's keep going. How about the coordinates of where this guy was born in Denmark/Norway? I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But yet again, the comedy continues. How dialed into the source code this guy was. 54 plus 10 is 64. 64 should automatically go and tell you it's the television screen. You're inside of a movie. And to know this information gives you illumination. It gives you illumination. I mean, there's so many syncs with this guy. 1777, the 777's there, August 14th. Knowing what that is, 14 is time. As you enter into this reality, you enter into time. The word time equals 14. The word God equals 14. And here's the element that's got the God right there, right on it. And the 156 is tied to the 911, tied to the 4 fixed signs of astrology / theology. It's all the same thing. So this aluminium, otherwise pronounced as aluminum, as I always called it ever since I was a kid, but it's aluminium. Is it just the sun and moon? Did the sun and moon come down here to play out the game? I mean, is this the God? Is this ruling over us? I mean, I've shown, as well as the great Jordan overs at Waters Above Crypto, how the moon's patterns run the cryptocurrency markets. It runs the stock market. The sun and moon run the stock market. Make no mistake about it, they run the stock market. They run cryptocurrency. They have their hand in our reality. And are both of these aluminium? Are they the Al? You can call me Al. Well, the word aluminium comes from this word right here, and this was the dead giveaway for me. It comes from this word called alumin, like a luminary body, alumin, and it's al-u-men. The U, it's you and me. So it's the al and the U, and this is magnetic, by the way. The letter U is tied to uranium, and then men. It's all right there in the source code telling you the story. And 24, of course, is very important because it's tied to this element right here called chromium. And chromium, it comes from the word chroma, which means color. And that's exactly what we're all made up of. We are made up of the light spectrum called humans. And we become illuminated from luminary bodies, perhaps such as these two right here, that come down into the whole. And they come into the lower parts called duality. They make up this reality, folks. And when you become man, you become color, slowed down into physical matter. Slowed down into physical matter. When we do the cards through the tarot to get a picture of what this perhaps looks like, we get the death card because we die, remember. Here is the makeup of aluminium, 13 and 26. 13 protons, 26 is the isotope. The weight, here are the cards that make it up. I mean, how very fitting, folks. Right here. See, when we come down through the hole and we become a luminary body and we slow down into physical matter and we become part of the I, we have to die. You die a spiritual death and you come down and you start out a physical life. And this is what this card means right here. This means happy home. 26 card. Happy home. So you die a spiritual death into reality. You incarnated into a man or woman, and you start to live out your life. And this is the 4 of wands, meaning, and the 4 of clubs, and this is the mind. Going in from the mind of the cosmos. And you could see, we're in a game. This is what being illuminated means. 13 means you're in a game, and 26 means you're in the house. The house is going to always win. That's duality. And you're a light being slowed down into physical matter. It's all right there, folks. All of it. It's all tied together, and you're part of the eye in the sky. Let's keep going. So this 24 is a big deal. We go into the tarot once again, and the 24th card in the tarot, this is using, let me just digress and show you, this is using the Fool card in the 0 and the 22 position. This is one of the most popular spreads. You could do it many different ways, but there's card number 24. Okay, there's card number 24. And here it is, the 2 of Wands. So when you come down here as a luminary body and you become a man or woman, and you come in the upside down world and have to live out a life through the game, you have choice and potential here. You have the globe or the world. Some of you may not like that word. You have the world in the palm of your hands, and the 2 pillars are representing magnetism and electricity. 2 pillars, Boaz and Yachin. The sun and the moon on either side, and then the world's in the middle. And that's the 24th card. Keep in mind too, as well, like small little subtle things, aluminum is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust. Think about what I'm telling you. Aluminium is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust. Illumination. To be illumined. A luminary body, folks. Tied to the X chromosomes. Again, you go back up to the 4 fixed signs, and here's the X right there. The X chromosomes. The X is the 24th letter in the English alphabet, and there is the 24. Tied to the original offspring of where this word came from. It means illumine, which it means a luminary body. And when you come down through that hole, you become part of illumination. Again, these are parts that we're waking up to. It's parts that we're making up to. And then if you don't use the Fool, just wanted to throw this in there because this is another way to observe the tarot. If you don't use the Fool as card 22, it would put the Ace of Clubs or the Ace of Wands at the 24th position. And these cards are going to bleed, so it doesn't matter. That it could be the Ace or the 2. It does not matter. It's going to be both of these. But you go into the cards of illumination. It's the Ace of Clubs, the 14th card. And it's telling you when you enter in from spirit down into matter, you now enter the game, which involves time. And you only have so much time. That's what this tells all of us right here. And that's the illumination, realizing that you're in a game and it now involves time, and it's kind of against the clock at this point. So let's get into the next topic now. 1313. I want to break down the melting point of aluminium and show you how massively important it is in the machinations of what I'm about to show you. But first things first, there's a reason why I'm showing a picture of the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. And I didn't even know this until I was messing around with aluminium. But you see, the very apex of this phallus, right here, guess what this is made up of? Well, if you guessed aluminium, you guessed right. So if you use your thinking cap here, use your logic and common sense, why would aluminium be placed at the apex of this Washington Monument that supposedly stands 555 feet tall? May even go 100 feet into the ground or whatever and get 666 feet tall, as speculations have. But why would this be aluminium? Because of the importance of this element, and you're seeing it. I just showed it to you right here, how important all this is. Becoming illuminated, and this being the most abundant metal in Earth itself. And this 13 is 31. 31's tied to soap debt in the Egyptian, which is tied to Sirius. But here it is. Here's the spelling of aluminium, 31. You see how important this is? 31 is what it has. 13 is 31, and aluminium has 13 protons. So just why is the tip of this made up of aluminium? Well, you can do your own research as you go along, but obviously you could see the importance of why this was built that way. But I want to get into this 1313. I want to get into the 1313. Let me digress and show all of you that the melting point of gadolinium, the 64th element, tied to the television screen. This to me is spirit coming down to become matter and play the game. This 1313. So I want to get into this 1313. This is a big time find that I feel has a ton of merit. And then we get into the sine and cosine waves. Now, this is advanced decoding because there isn't many decoders that use it. And if you are somebody who wants to add another layer to your decodes, you will definitely want to get into the sine and cosine waves of each number. And there are many ways to observe it. But the sine and cosine wave, if you don't know what it means, this is tied into pi. So this great graphic here, made by Russell Kitely, credit goes out to him. It's just the measurement of pi, the circle, the perfect circle, which is what we all live on, which is the makeup of your eye. Your eye is going to fit in there. The pupil of your eye is going to fit in there. It's going to give you the number 33. It's the sine and cosine waves. And you notice the sine waves make up a wave pattern, and the cosine wave down below makes up another wave pattern. And together, they make up a very specific pattern, and every number can be measured with this sine and cosine wave. Every number. And so when we get into, let me go back up, when we get into this 1313 and we add up the sine and cosine waves, we're going to get the number 68 and 59. And it's going to give us a total of 127. And 127 is the 31st prime number. This is a big deal because 31 then leads us again to alchemy to get us another clue. And oh boy, was this a clue and a gem of a find. 31 is tied to the element gallium. It's also going to be tied to the element sulfur. Tied to the word hell. But this gallium is 31. 31 protons. There's the 68 for its most abundant weight. There's the 68 making up the sine wave. And this is the picture, the icon the Royal Society of Chemistry uses to describe this element. And it's all about France and who discovered it, and you can go do the research on your own. But when you bring this into another layer to show you the source code playing out all the time, we get into Chinese astrology, because there is the rooster on the calendar of the zodiac that makes up the Chinese astrology. And the rooster is tied to Chronos, Father Time, because the rooster is the 10th Chinese zodiac sign. So we now have a link to the great Chronos, the father of time, running the time. And is this Saturn sending its energy down to play its own game? Or is Saturn just a player in all of this and the constructs that I've been showing you? Because these signs all have an opposite. They have a symbiotic relationship. So the rooster is opposite of the rabbit. And then we get into the moon. And now you have what David Icke says is the Saturn moon matrix. So think about what I'm showing you. We started with the melting point of gadolinium, the GD element. What's the GOD? What is God? What is the Lord? What is the architect or architects? Well, it's tied to the television screen. I know that because we're in a movie. So when you know we're in a movie, you get illuminated. And then you study the GOD element, the GD element, you realize that the transmutation of energy from this metal melting down into a different state, the liquid state, which is what we're made up of. We're made up of water primarily. We then have a clue. And then it leads to this rooster and the 10th sign. So you have the 10 and the 4. That's going to give you the 104. Remember I showed that earlier with the 4 stars that make up the 4 fixed signs? And the moon's at the bottom, and it's the rabbit chasing time. So are we just entering in through Saturn? Is Saturn dumping us into this reality? Is it sending players down here into this reality? And it does so by way of what this is showing right here. Well, I decided to look at on the calendar what's going to be making up the 200. Now, why the 200? Because it's tied into the fallen angels story. There are supposedly 200 fallen angels, and I'm going to show you why I decided to look at it this way. So just allow me to narrate this. This is really, really big time. So the 200 is tied to 2 dates on the calendar, like most days, because you have the common and the leap years. It's July 18th and July 19th, which is going to give you the 37. Remember what that goes to? Eye in the sky. But you're also going to get the 201. Those of you that know the 201, I know a lot of you, Society of Jesus is 201. Well, it's tied to the fallen angel story. It's tied to Mercury, the messenger. The messenger. And it's tied to these 2 cards right here because July 18th and 19th is the 18th and 19th card, the sun and moon. I mean, is it just the sun and moon coming down here to play out the game? This is definitely part of it right here. But it's tied to the fallen angel story right here. And the origin is Saturn. And this origin obviously is found from the sine and cosine waves. And the sine and cosine waves was the 1313. And remember the origin of that, the melting point of the GD element, the gadolinium element, the television screen. So I can clearly see that it's spirit becoming matter, however that looks. The 156 is tied to the 4 fixed signs of astrology, the 4 fixed signs coming down to become man. We have the fallen angel story, we have the rooster and Capricorn. And Saturn is obviously tied to Satan, which runs time. That's what Satan is. Satan is time. Saturn is time, the father of time. Satan just means time, folks. That's what it means. And you have the sun and the moon tied to that. These luminary bodies that rule over us, tied to the fallen angel story. And I got more to show you. Let me keep going. Here are the 2 cards that are tied to July 18th and 19th, day number 200 and 201. Here they are right here. And we get into the X chromosomes again, because this card, the 10 clubs, is tied to July 18th, and the 9 of clubs is July 19th. And it's the 23 and 22. It's the 23 and me, the X chromosomes. This is kind of the comedy. And again, who created this company? I mean, did they know that the 200th day of the year falls in line with the 10 of clubs, which is the 23rd card? Did they know that? And that's the reason why they named it 23andMe? Or are they just a company that collects DNA to tell you what your lineage is and whatever else the hell they're doing there? I don't know. There could be more means to it than just what I'm saying here. But let's keep going. You see, the 19, 37, and 46 is going to fit in here because remember, this day on the calendar, July 18th and July 19th, making up the 200 and 201st day of the year, tied to the fallen angel story 200, which may indeed show this coming down to becoming man, down in the hole. Illumination, becoming a luminary body and then becoming a physical body, incarnating into man or woman. Well, 18 and 19 is 37. There's that 19, 37, 46. Is this the loop that we're all stuck in and you ain't getting out of? Tied to the fallen angel story. And the origination is Saturn from this perspective. But let's keep going. You see, the 23 and 22 lead us down a different hole. Adding it up, it's going to be this element, rhodium. And it's Pandora's box element, the 45th element. 23 and 22 is 45, and there's Pandora's box. It's all right there. And this is the, disobedience is 45, fallen angels is 45, Pandora's box is 45. And you mean to tell me these 2 dates on the calendar, which tie into the fallen angel story of the 200 that came down here, are tied into these 2 cards. They add up to the number 45. And it links to Pandora's box and fallen angels and disobedient and all those stories, but it's in the source code. And is it really angels that came down here to become man or woman, or is it just the architect coming down here to play out its own game? Well, you got to be the judge of that. Let's keep going. So when we bring in the elements on the periodic table, tied into the 10 clubs and 9 clubs, it's vanadium or vanadium and titanium. There's the Titans. Right there. There's the Titans tied to the fallen angel story in the 201 and Mercury. Saturn's moon Titan, Saturn's moon Titan. And when you add these up, these 2 right here, 23 and 22, found from the 2 cards, it's 98.809. And when you take 809 and you add up these, you're going to get 907. And when you go to numberempire.com and you type in 907, you're going to notice it's the 155th prime number. And then when you go and take that 155 and put it into the string of pi to fact check it, bam, there it is at the 300. And it's spirit entering down into pi. That's all these layers are telling all of us. It's spirit coming down to play the game, however that looks. And this is just obviously complex, but yet you could see when you connect them all, there's absolutely no denying what you're seeing here. So gallium, found from the 1313, tied to Capricorn and the rooster, it's 21. Go right back to indium, and where we all started with Stranger Things in the upside down world, go down in the hole. And you can see how the comedy is here with all these. And this is just all part of the script, ladies and gentlemen. Found from the 4 fixed signs that I started with here. and the melting point of the GD element, found from the 156, the original spelling of the 4 fixed signs. And now you know, like, what happened on 9/11. Well, now you know it's running all that. It's not man running it, folks. They're being used by energies outside of this reality. So a little bit more on this 1313. If you're still here, thanks for sticking with me. There's only going to be a few of you that make it all the way to the end. Less than 15% usually just make it to the end. So if you made it this far, congratulations. But the sine and cosine wave of this 1313 from the melting point of gadolinium, the television screen coming down to become man, it's the 68 and 59. It's erbium and praseodymium. Remember the game of life, and I'm going to show that, but what's the 166? If you've been paying attention, how about tetragrammaton equals the number 166? And there's the 68 found from the sine wave. And the cosine wave is 59. So it's the tetragrammaton coming down to play the game of life. And that's exactly what all this means. And ladies and gentlemen, if you need mathematics to back that up, here it is. Another anomaly in the string of the golden ratio and pi. 31 appears at the 137th decimal digit of the golden ratio. That's exactly where the 137 appears in the string of pi, at the 31. 31 appears at the 137th decimal digit of pi and the golden ratio. Bam, both of them. So we know this is a big deal, and that's just tied to the 31 here and the 127. We found that from the sine and cosine wave of gadolinium. That's the illumination. You see, when you come down to become man, you come down to play the game. And now you're on the television screen. And you're live in front of the whole world. You're on television. So it's all this means. So when we add these up, this gives you more comedy, more confirmation of how this reality works. Because when you add up erbium and praseodymium, you're going to get the number 307.84. And what is 307.84? Well, it's just right inside the element that has the all-seeing eye. All-seeing eye equals 37. 37 and 84. You can't miss it, ladies and gentlemen. It's right there, dead center, right there. So what is this telling us? The eye, your eyeballs are the galaxy. It's the universe. You're being watched by watching and observing. And you're playing the game when you come down here called life. You see, this is where the fallen angel story fits into the script, because Mount Hermon is where the 200 fallen angels supposedly landed. And it's 33 degrees north, 35 degrees east. When you take 33 and 35 and add it up, what are you going to get? 68. What is the 68 found from? The 1313, the sine and cosine waves, which is found from gadolinium and the melting point of gadolinium, which is the television screen. So it's the game of life that we come into. It's the game of life that we come into. Here is the two twins. Here's the icon they chose. Of course, the color lime is the color we see first in our eyes. And it's the game of life. It's the game of life that you enter into. Praseodymium being the game of life is the 46. We go right back to the loop, 1937-46. But here's the, more theology, the tree of life. This is of life right here, 46. So when you enter into the game of life, you enter into the tree of life, and it's the game of life. And that's found from the melting point of gadolinium. Again, melting point is the transmutation of energy into the movie. Now you're part of the movie. I mean, look at all these syncs, ladies and gentlemen, right here. I know it may be complex for some of you, but those of you that have been paying attention and following along this great research, you can clearly see how the machinations of all this works. In 46, go right back to this Palladium again, Pallas, the god of wisdom or goddess of wisdom. Think about what I'm showing you here. And, this guy right here was born on the 46th day of the year. How do you think he got all his secrets? Tied to the goddess of wisdom, tied to the game of life and how we all got here. I mean, it's just all connected. And this is undeniable to me. This is not even trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. So when you come down here and play the game of life to become illuminated. This is the information you need to know. You get into pi. This is isotope 141. Science will round this up. So the game of life is 59. Praseodymy is 140.908. It's going to round up to 141. And bam, when you enter into life, you now are in pi, the perfect circle, which is Earth. And you start to play out the game as you go down in the so below. And you become the star. You become the star of the movie. I mean, you can't miss it right there. 59 is the 17th prime number. There's the 17. Tied to this praseodymium. And when you become the star, you become a blood type. Remember, the first blood type, if you watch my Bloodline Decoded, the first blood type, I feel is tied to chlorine. And the O blood type, O is the circle, the donut. And it's the simulation because chlorine's average weight is 35. There is the connecting point. So when you come into the game of life, it's a simulation. It's part of a movie. It's not real. It's real to us, but it's not real to whatever's observing us. And when you come into the game of life, I mean, look at the tarot telling us what the game of life means. This is the card of worry and stress and fear and nightmares. You enter the nightmare into the game of life. And even though you're a star, you enter into the nightmare. And perhaps if you're an illuminated being, if you're a star and you want to come down here and play the game, whatever that looks like in the heavenly bodies, well, you know that there's going to be a lot of worry, stress, doubt, fear, nightmares, because that's what's part of this game. And that's what this tells us with the tarot right here, loud and clear. And you can even go with the trapped and limited. Again, these cards are dualistic, so this is my birth card, but this is card 58 or 59, depending on how you use the Fool. But you can clearly see when you come into the game of life, it's a lot of worry, doubt, and fear, and then you're trapped and limited. And you ain't getting out until you die. So be the star in your own movie, and you'll have the very best experience. So let's get into the last topic. I know this has been a long one. Thanks each and every one of you for sticking with me on this. I know there's a lot of information to comprehend, but saving the best for last to show you how you're in the movie. It's all about being illuminated. Illumination. So here we go, last topic. So starting off again, showing this graphic, the 156 tied to the 4 fixed signs, which are tied to the 13 in the middle. The 13's in the middle representing the pupil. And this is the death card. This is the death card. And when you come down into this game, you have to play it. And here's where more theology ties into theology. To once again support that there is no separation on anything in this reality that we call life. If you take Ezekiel 1 verses 10, it talks about the 4 fixed signs. But if you go all the way back to 1 verses 1, here's the clues to show you we live in a scripted reality, because it came to pass in the 30th year. And there's the tie into the demiurge. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, I'm going to show that. You even have Lucifer and there is phosphorus. There's the 30, the light bringer. The light bringer. Remember, illumin. This word is from illumin, tied to light. So in the 30th year of the 4th month on the 5th day. So we break all this down. So on the Hebrew calendar, it's this right here. I think it's Tammuz or Tammuz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong, but there it is. And it's the month of June when you convert it to the Gregorian calendar. Notice that's the number 21. Remember what the 21 was tied to? It's tied to enter the world. See, so it enters the world, and it's on the 5th day, and 5 is man. Right there, the 5th day, 5 is man. That's why you have 5 fingers. 5 is the pentagram, 5-pointed star. And then 21 plus 5 is 26, and then you're going to get the yod, you're going to get iron again. And this is where the visions of God were. So what's the God of the Bible? This is clearly telling you I saw visions of God. What are the visions? Well, you get into the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, and the 26 is tied to our blood and iron. 26 reduces down to the 17. 17 is the star. This tells us. So is it just the architect, the God, the Lord, whatever you want to call it, coming down to become man? and become the star in the movie at any time it wants to? Or does it just control us remotely? Well, let's connect once again to the television screen. So when you convert this calendar to the Gregorian calendar, Tammuz is June, and the fifth day, it's June 5th. And look at what day of the year it is, folks. Right back to the comical television screen. The 156th, 157th in leap years, bam, there it is. Again, in 156, remember, is the 4 fixed signs of astrology, making that X. The X marks the spot. Coming down to become man or woman. The owl, you can call me Al. Tied to the sun, tied to the moon. Whatever else goes into these constructs. And it comes down and becomes part of the movie down below in the So Below. So this tells all of us. So let's keep going with this. Again, here's the guy that founded aluminum or aluminium, Hans Christian Ørsted, tied to the television screen. Don't want to leave that out. But here's the comedy even further, is June 5th being the 156th and 157th day of the year. You add that up, 156 plus 157, you're going to get the number 313. It's not just any number, it's the 65th prime number. And that's tied to not only terbium and the compact discs and the CDs and writing the script of life, but it's the zinc element. And it's tied to Santa Claus. You see, what is Santa Claus symbolizing? Santa Claus starts at the roof and goes down the chimney. So you want to see some comedy? We go right to the periodic table. Remember, Santa Claus is 30, found from this 313, found from when this part of theology talks about the visions of God and the heavens were opened. Yeah, the heavens were opened and God came down. It's tied to Santa Claus. Santa Claus comes down the chimney. Well, you see this element zinc right here? You go to the Royal Society of Chemistry and we look at this element zinc, and here's the comedy. This is how funny whatever the architect is, because you look at this picture right here and you go to the uses and properties, and what does it say? It's an alchemical symbol for zinc is against an abstract background inspired by zinc roofing materials. How about that? Of all things that the Royal Society of Chemistry uses to tell you the representation of zinc, it has to do with roofing materials. And you mean to tell me that Santa Claus is 30, tied to the element zinc? You see the comedy, folks? This is all a movie. It's a shit show down here. It's all just a movie. All of it. And it's tied to Lucifer. See, I believe Lucifer is the king, not the king, Lucifer is the God of the Bible. Lucifer is the God of the Bible. It's the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. It's Yaldabaoth. They're all the same character. All of it. Allah, Yaldabaoth, Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, Tetragrammaton, Lucifer, Jesus, they're all in bed together, all of them. There's no separation in the script called life. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they're all in bed together. They all mean the same thing. That's what I feel to be illuminated. You want to get illuminated? Realize that you're in a movie, you're an actor and actress, and here's the comedy to end this presentation. I have a few more slides left. The card that is the representation of June 5th, which is talked about in Ezekiel 1 verses 1, which is the precursor to Ezekiel 1 verses 10, which talks about the 4 fixed signs of astrology, which is theology and vice versa. It's the queen, it's the red queen. It's the 38th card in the deck, June 5th. Just so we can be really transparent, here it is. Here's June, and then here's June 5th. Right there. Queen Diamonds, card number 38. And that's tied to this. So here's the kind of the truth bomb illuminate. You want to be illuminated, realize you're in a movie. Whoops. Realize that you're in a movie. And you're either an actor or an actress. One or the other. And it's right there, the 38. So this day, June 5th, day 156 and 157, tied to this scripture right here in Ezekiel 1 verses 1, talking about the visions of God. Well, you put 2 and 2 together. We become actors and actresses down here on the world stage, and we become used. And that's it. You see, 17 and 21, which make up the word actor and actress, it is a 38 tied to the Queen Diamonds. We service the Queen Bee. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. What do you think that's linked to? Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Lucy's female. The word Lucy equals 13, by the way. Just so we can be clear, let's just go to that. There you go. Lucy is a 13, folks. What do you think this card means? It's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, the queen, the Red Queen. This is tied to Manchurian candidate and mind control. And you're just playing out your part down here. Actor is 17, actress is 21. Bringing those two numbers together, look at what it gives. It's the 268th prime number. And it's linked to this element right here, dubnium, discovered in Russia. And then we bring in theology again. It's what the Masons call the God. It's the great architect of the universe. There's the 105. There it is. You can't miss it. So what do you think the great architect of the universe is? It's me. It's you. It's using us to play out the game called life. And we're actors and actresses. And it's all about feeding the wolf. See, this is kind of like the gem, the truth bomb out of this entire presentation. Knowing that you're an actor and actress, knowing you're being used by the architect or architects. And here's the caption. Here's the tarot telling us the story. The actress and actor, 17 and 21. Here are the two cards. You are the star of the world, or the world star. Coming down and becoming man or woman, the star of the movie. And when you take the numerology of these two, the world and the star, right on the cards, gives you the number 60. And 60, as most of you know, is tied to the word feed the wolf. And that's what we all are. And it's tied to this element right here. They use magnets for this element. Neodymium or neodymium. Magnets. And there's the average weight, 144. There's the chosen ones. And then the 141, which is the most abundant, which is pi itself. When you come down here and play out the game, you are now entered into pi, the perfect circle. And you become the star. Most people aren't the stars in the movie. They're just extras or walk-ons. Not interested in becoming a star. But it's the world star. And this, to me, is pure illumination. This is what it means to be illuminated. So if you made it this far, congratulations. The third time I've said this. Most will never get this far. Not interested enough in the information, or it wasn't, whatever, appealing to them or not. But this was the big truth bomb, the big gem I wanted to save to the end. You see, we service the Queen Bee. It's not only the Queen Bee, it's the Red Queen. And Red Queen equals 33. It's on the 1962 Manchurian candidate video. It's the implant. I mean, it's right there, folks. Illumination's 38. And it means you're an actor or actress playing out on the television screen called life. And it's ruled over by the four fixed signs, the ox, lion, eagle, man, or the bull, lion, eagle, man. And it's the 13. And it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Right there. And you can see what Lucy is. Lucy's tied to Lucifer. And so what would Lucifer be? It has to be the God of the Bible. There can't be any separation from that. So anyway, folks, I hope you really enjoyed this presentation, a really long one. Would love to hear what you saw. But I feel that like this right here is the gem of all gems. This tells us the story, how important the number 13 is, tied to our blood, the 26, tied to our pupil, tied to the iris of our eye, tied to the 33. And this is the Red Queen right here. Remember the 33, I just want to show this here. The Red Queen is 33. And the Red Queen rules over the iris and the pupil. Right there. You can't miss it. It's right there, 33. It's a direct match. And it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds who runs the game called life. That's what it runs. And the God of the Bible is Lucifer, the light bringer, the luminous bodies, the luminary bodies. And it's just all right there. I mean, that's why the Masons have the Bible. That's why they use the Bible. It's all telling you the story. It doesn't mean it's the authoritative text on the world stage. You have a lot of other ones. Upanishads, they're going to say it's Brahma. Same thing. Brahma, Jehovah, same thing. They're all tied together. It's just someone got bored and decided to change it up. I didn't like the way you called the GOD. I'm going to name it something else. And it's just the GOD doing it anyway. It's just the GOD getting bored. Creating a different name to be worshipped by. No matter what, it's all about feeding the wolf, and you can't help it when you become a star and enter the world called the game of life. That's what this all means here, folks. And it's the Red Queen. And that's the Illumination. You're in a movie. You're in a movie, and that's it. So I'd love to hear what you saw during this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your comments coming. As I often say, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality. Thank each and every one of you for your Patreons. Those of you that are interested in reading, send me an email, decodeyourreality@gmail.com. But until next time, folks, we will see you later.